You die and you are told that you will be randomly reincarnated and only have one choice to affect your next life: the country you will be born in. What country do you choose and why? I would normally choose something sane like New Zealand or Finland or Iceland, but that's kind of boring. So I'll go for Vatican City to ruin the birth rate of 0. In other news, the Roman Curia was struck by wonder and confusion in equal measure this morning as His Holiness announced his pregnancy. A visibly shaken spokesperson for the Holy See, in a brief comment, noted that the pontiff was as surprised as anyone by this development. New Zealand. You're born working class Pacific Islander or Maori and live in South Auckland in a damp and moldly overcrowded house, which all your unemployed parents can afford to rent. You get rheumatic fever and it knackers your heart for life. Your local schools are shit, so you drop out and join a gang and get the girl pregnant while too high on methamphetamine to think about contraception. Pick Norway. Probably the Netherlands, because I've always wanted to be taller and better looking and live in a windmill and eat tulips for dinner and show the sea who's boss. I'm Dutch, short, not so good looking, and let me tell you, the first thing you need to understand if you want to be Dutch, the sea is boss. We just challenge it because we have to. As someone who's lived in NL for nearly 5 years, I can advise that you reconsider your choice. As despite the Dutch, in major cities at least, being very friendly and open-minded, and despite the healthcare system being very good, and despite the education system being good, and generally just about any institution being good, the weather there will make you depressed, as it is a country where the sun is only really visible for about 20 to 30% of the year, and the effect this has on the people there is profoundly tangible. Liechtenstein and Luxembourg have the highest GDP per capita when adjusted for purchasing power and tiny populations, so the likelihood of ending up not well off is low. So if we're talking born and live there, then I'd choose those. Monaco is another good choice to be born in. If we're talking born but not necessarily raised in, even if born to someone visiting, it would be rare that you'll be born in Monaco and not well off. Definitely Luxembourg. Yeah, I grew up trilingual, speak perfect English and also some Portuguese and Spanish. No big deal. Switzerland. 'Cause money and no war, mountains are really beautiful. Heard they don't have so many political problems as in other countries. I've been living here for just over 2 years and I can attest to the good and the bad. Good, like you said, it is beautiful, and I mean that in every sense of the word. I've visited a lot of countries and lived for extended periods in a fair amount, and it's really hard to beat Switzerland in that. On the other hand, it is depressingly hyper-capitalistic, with my last, first and only, visit to the doctor for 2 hours costing me over $700. The itemized invoice charging me per question. Essentially, every question that requires someone's attention was immediately marked down as 5-minute consultation. My insurance being crazy expensive, but still being one of the cheapest ones, of around $350 a month, with mandatory self-participation of $2,500, so it didn't even cover the doctor. And generally, everything here being astonishingly expensive and incredibly money-focused. For an outsider, it's also easy to see all the problems being swept under the rug. But I suppose for someone Swiss born and raised, life might actually be quite incredible here. That is, as User has mentioned, provided you are born white, and to at least a well-standing family. Norway is pretty boring, to be honest. I always wanted to go back to America, to see the skyscrapers and the beaches and all of that. If you come to Norway, expect 3 types of weather: rain, snow, or sun. Mostly rain. I'm Australian. I live on the West Coast. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather live, especially with what's going on in the world. However, I don't think it would be as enjoyable to live here if I was poor. It's expensive. A glass of average white wine is about $9 in most casual dining places. House prices are crazy. Everyone thinks we live right by the beach here. Be prepared to spend $700,000+ for a 4-bed house. Over $1 million if you want one of the prestige suburbs. $400+ a week on a rent in a small house or apartment. A Big Mac is $6.60, US $4.80. But there's good healthcare, schooling, and generally a nice place to live. and you're unlikely to be shot. And although I've seen plenty of snakes, spiders, and other nasties, I've never been bitten. I moved to Denmark. I think I'd be a Scandinavian citizen by birth next time. Decent living standards, not too hot. I enjoy holidays somewhere warm, but working in that heat would suck for me. Not crazy religious or bigoted overall, state-funded healthcare and education, and not too remote geographically. I'd probably be taught English at a very young age, so I'd be bilingual before being a proper adult. And maybe I'd be better looking. Not perfect here, but it's a good choice in my opinion. Monaco. My parents, by definition, are either trust fund kids or very high earners. Even just a student room costs around $8,000 a month. Yes, with 3 zeros. And my passport will say freaking Monegasque. It's as close to royalty you can get without actually being in it, and by just selecting the country. If you were going for any percent, what do you want a place with the highest chance of being aborted? Apparently, Russia is number 1 in abortion rates, but I suppose if you consider Plan B, that may be different. People here seem to be thinking that they'll always be reincarnated into a person. It says randomly on the title, so you might reincarnate into any animal, maybe even a plant. With that in mind, I'll go for Antarctica. The way I see it, I'll either be a penguin or some other cool Antarctic animal with no mass killings due to hunting, just other animals, or an environmental scientist. My dad's side of the family lives in Germany. I went to school with my friend for a day a few years back. It was very interesting. School started at 6 a.m. and ended at 1 p.m. During English practice, I got to help all the other kids, and the school system was just so much better than American schools. During recess, there was no playground, just a forest with a fence so kids wouldn't get lost. It was just so great. So Germany is a good choice. Lol. I'd probably stick with Australia, maybe New Zealand, but the value of the dollar is even worse than it is here. Otherwise, if I had to go somewhere else, I would probably go somewhere Nordic, or maybe even as far south as the Netherlands in a pinch. I agree with you. I'm also an Australian, so I would either stay here or maybe go to a Scandinavian country. Canada might be a good option as well, but I'm not too sure about the cold. I will try to move to New Zealand in this lifetime. Even though I don't carry much hope with me, it seems like a place that would like me and what I have to offer to this world. Kind of a gut feeling, but might be some silly youth thought as well. Japan. I always wanted to grow up in a country so technologically developed that you can warm your toilet seat. Probably Germany. Half my family lives in Germany, so I usually visit them once a year, and it's beautiful there. There's lots of small villages, like the one my family lives in, and you can really see a sense of community. People will gladly help their neighbor out, and depending on the size, you can sometimes get local restaurants and bakeries with really good food. And German food is really good. Germany as a whole is just beautiful as well. I've seen more flowers when taking short walks than I have sitting in a car driving to a different state in the US. German houses are also beautiful, and I wish we saw similar houses where I live. Compared to the US, Germany is just so much better in my opinion. Nice vibes, you know? German bread is probably the best thing on earth. Sometimes it feels like there's more sorts of bread than people alive. Just quickly off the top of my head, Estonia. For whatever reason, I've recently had a bunch of Estonian dudes show up on my people you may know. They are all super good looking and seem like great people. Also, the country as a whole seems super sports forward. Alas, I could be super wrong. Any of the Nordic countries, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, they have some of the highest quality of life, great healthcare, education is paid through taxes so you don't pay insane amounts, and free public transportation. Probably Ireland, where I live now. It's a good country to live in, relatively safe, and its citizens are generally well looked after. Sure, it isn't perfect, but nowhere is, really. Also, I could finally be able to say that I'm an Irish national. I was born in England, and the English and Irish, historically speaking, have never been best friends. Yeah, my gut response is always, oh, I'd love to live in Nordic countries /Canada/the UK. But after I moved somewhere really warm and sunny after living in the Midwestern part of the US my whole life, I don't think I could go back. The rain, snow, and gray skies for over half of the year really gets you in a way you don't even realize sometimes. I might choose to be reborn in the US again too. It is definitely easy to make fun of the US, and it's not without its problems, but it's not without its good parts either. And right now, there's a lot of turmoil, but I believe it's the precursor to a lot of good changes. I think within the next 10 years, the US will look much different than it does today, but in a good way. Haha. If not the US, I'd love to live somewhere like Costa Rica or Uruguay. 100% sure the US. There is just a lot of great things about it, and there are so many places I might be born into, and most of them are good places. I'd choose French Polynesia, not technically a country, but that way I could live out my dreams of living in an island, and then as a grown-up, I could use my European passport to go to school in Europe and work abroad if I felt compelled to do so, or return to Polynesia and continue to enjoy island life. Antarctica. I'm sick of everything else. I'm gonna live with the penguins. Finland. Happiest and some of the smartest people on Earth currently. And if I get booted back before the Winter War, snipe some Soviets. New Zealand. All Blacks rugby. It's far away from everybody else. Beautiful place. I would choose one of the Nordic countries probably. When you say reincarnated, am I guaranteed to be a human, or might I be an animal? Also, if I will keep reincarnating after I die, I would choose somewhere more risky, or even somewhere dangerous, so I could learn more about their culture. Canada. Because I live in Mass, and was born here in America. But there's only a 2% chance I get lucky, so I want to get born somewhere sane. Also, I fucking love hockey. If I get to live again, you bet I'm playing more hockey. Finland or Iceland. Both are beautiful countries and seem to take heart in their citizens and provide social programs. Honestly, just not any of the world's superpowers. I'm tired of our country constantly being a target due to our winning bigly. I would not change Mexico, to be honest. There's a lot of unfound bad press, but we have everything except a competent government. But who does, really? We have awesome weather year-round, food is incredible, people are very nice and not nosy like American culture. The healthcare is a free market. You have access to free government healthcare, plus ability to get your own health insurance, and choose your own doctors and hospital care, ranging from very cheap to insanely expensive. 99% of meds are over the counter. If you want to work in something, you can. Everyone trains. You don't need to spend thousands in a degree or license, unless you are a doctor or engineer. You get a ton of work, unlike other countries where you need a certificate to even put on stupid nails at a local salon. Like all countries, there are problems. We could definitely use less violence and stop being cheap labor for the US, and free parking malls. Though, I yearn for a strong film industry too. We don't tend to purchase online because everything is nearby, so the economy is strong. Want a coffee? Cross the street. Want to go to the movies? Drive 5 minutes. But hell, overall, it's awesome. I would consider England though. People seem nice and their healthcare system is strong. Probably somewhere in Asia. I want somewhat strict parents and I love most Asian foods. I also love Asian culture. Does it have to be a country that currently exists? Or will my choice force into existence the country I choose? Because I choose Cascadia. There's a movement I support for Oregon, Washington, and Vancouver to secede. The proposed country is called Cascadia. If I can't choose that, I guess I'll choose Canada. Dude, it's Bermuda, and it's located in the North Atlantic, very far from the Caribbean. About 1,300 miles. Despite the misinformation, it's a wonderful place I would also love to live. Finland. Basically, nature in Lapland is so awesome that I don't need anything else. Just a campfire and making coffee with it. Simple life. Depends on the time period. For example, if it was the 1500s and I chose America, Would I just fade away? Would I not be allowed to do that? Or would I just live in whatever land the USA is today? I'd say Canada. My reasoning is its beauty. There's nice people, not everyone, that's impossible. Free healthcare, it's beautiful here, and most of us, me included, have built up a tolerance to the cold. Having a tolerance to the cold can be helpful if you want to explore cold areas, in my opinion. Scotland. Seems chill. I love the weather and the beautiful nature landscapes. It's where most of my ancestors came from, and the people seem awesome. This sounds awfully nationalistic and boring, but I would probably reincarnate here in Denmark. I love this country so damn much. It's so balanced and overall a good country. There are some drawbacks, racist, etc., but in the grand scheme of things, there's very little of the very bad stuff here. Switzerland. I've got a feeling we're close to the series finale here, and I want to be within spitting distance of a bunker as much as possible. Also, chocolate and cheese and guns seems pretty chill. Finland. Since it's the wealthiest country, and you have a good chance of being born into riches, but also a good chance to be born in poverty. I would have always said Scandinavia/Netherlands/Northern Europe, but after reading a few comments about the weather and stuff, I actually don't know anymore. I'd like to be rich, which is nice, so Monaco. I'd like to not die of COVID or school shootings, New Zealand. But I don't want to be eaten to death by insects and bugs and birds, so not Oceania. I'd also like to not have a douche as the president/prime minister, so not the UK or Europe. Honestly, I think I'd either say Canada or Singapore. The USA, despite its many problems, when considering the pros and cons as an aggregate, the states present the best overall package. I'd stay in Austria, but only if I may live in Vienna again. Everything else is, well, otherwise Canada seems fine also. Slovenia, 100%. It's easily one of the best looking countries in the world. In my opinion, the best. You get the sexiest accent of all time when speaking English. Central Europe, so travel is ideal. The food is fantastic. Education is great. The people can be a hit or miss, much like everywhere. And there's a bit too much hard swing on religion/anti-religion, from what I hear. But hey, could it be worse? National pride seems to be entirely enjoyable. Seems to have a much sweeter work/life balance. I looked up areas of the world that have been bombed, and Mongolia was the only country left completely untouched. Japan. I would love to be an actor and become a Kamen Rider, being a VA, and voice many different anime characters too. Liechtenstein. The chance of being born there and into an incredibly wealthy family is very high, and the rest is basically the same as Switzerland. Ireland. I'm proud to be Irish for the simple fact that the majority of us tend to be welcoming and friendly towards one another. I wouldn't give up that nationality for anything. Cuba. I've only had one Cuban cigar, and I want more. But don't mistake me for someone who only thinks Cuban cigars are good. I smoke a lot of cigars. Iceland. The weather's not too far off of what I'm already living, and the whole country seems to have a really chill leave us alone and we leave you alone vibe. I'd choose New Zealand or Australia, since I've always been fascinated by the wildfire, and my more direct personality would be a little more acceptable. Finland or Czech Republic. I'm currently living in Czechia, and am not considering moving away. I actually love it here. It's probable that I will reincarnate in a non-human animal, so I choose Bhutan. It's peaceful, full of nature, little human intervention. If I was a wild animal, I would like to live there. Thailand. That way, I might be raised as a novice monk in some place like Wat Ban Kun from an early age. Based on the globe, I'm picking either Chile or South Africa. The only way to go from either of those is up. The title doesn't specify that I'll be human, so I'm going with Greece, because this site says that they have the highest percentage of vegans. India has the most vegetarians though, so that's also an interesting possibility, though it wouldn't be as great if I'm human. The Netherlands, because I live there. We have the best infrastructure, happiest children in the world, best food quality in the world, and so on, though our politics are failing. But damn, I love this country. If only we didn't have idiots running it. India. A big majority of Buddhists and Hindus live there, and they respect the ground animals walk on, so I would have no fear of death.